So good afternoon. We're back here in Washington, D.C. after providing the final stop on the We Shall Be Free tour. That stop was in New York State. So we've been waiting a little while here to release this video and explain exactly what's going on. So we have a system of government that's known as egalitarianism, which is the belief that all men are equal, all men are treated equally. And the foundation of egalitarianism is the fact that all laws must treat everyone equally. So there's two main issues that all injustice here in America derives from. One is oppression, the other is tyranny. Now, tyranny is the unequal application of laws by a person in a position of authority. So when a judge makes the decision to side with one party and deprive that individual of the right to access and have free and uninhibited relationship with their child, but then sides with another party, permitting them to have free and unobstructed access to their child without governmental interference, that would be an act of tyranny. Another act of tyranny would be when a judge decides that one person is going to get an indictment by a grand jury and another person is not. That would be a tyrannical act by an individual in a position of authority that's applying the law unequally among like citizens within our society. We don't have the ability to be able to apply laws unequally because we live in an egalitarian form of government. Now, the other issue is oppression. And oppression is when a law is enacted that treats one part of society differently than another. A great example of oppression would be when the state of California enacted its own alternative legislation that permits the prosecuting attorney to charge by way of information or indictment by their discretion. You see, the moment that prosecuting attorney decides that they're going to permit one person to have an indictment by a grand jury and not another person, that would be a tyrannical act based upon an oppressive law. You see, states do not have the authority to enact their own alternative legislation, substitute it for the provisions and guarantees of the Constitution, because that would be an oppressive act. It would be an act of oppression. And therein lies the injustice that exists here in America. America was not established based upon laws that could be created and treat people unequally, because all men are equal here in the United States of America. Now, there's some laws that actually protect this and defend this, and they derive from the Civil Rights Act 1964 and 1968. A great example is Title 42, subsection 1981. Now, 1981 says that all persons within the United States of America, within the jurisdiction of the United States, will be entitled to equal application of laws, equal protection of laws, and equal access to all proceedings. So, the Constitution of the United States is a law of the United States. Therefore, it must apply equally to every single person within the United States under the laws of 1981. Now, the grand jury proceeding is a proceeding that's protected and established by the Constitution of the United States, and therefore it is protected. And every single person is entitled to the fair and equal application and use of that proceeding. So when a state makes the decision that it's going to deny one person the right to the grand jury proceeding and not another, we have a big problem. We have a breakdown of our system of government. We have a state that is acting unlawfully in violation of the rules and established parameters of the egalitarianism form of government. So the purpose of the grand jury is to ensure that there is a neutral, unbiased third party that will review the state's accusations to determine whether or not there's probable cause to assume that a crime has been committed. That is a proceeding that is there for the benefit of the accused and not the accuser. So when a state denies the accused the right to be able to be present, to be able to benefit from the proceeding itself, to be able to mitigate any sort of unlawful acts by the state itself, you see, that would be unconstitutional, it would be illegal, and it's actually a crime. So the laws of criminal conspiracy state that conspiracy to obstruct justice is when two or more persons conspire for the purpose of preventing any party in any cause from participating in said cause commits that crime. So when a prosecuting attorney denies the accused the right to be present, to be able to confront the accusations against them, that is an unlawful act. It is a crime. And a maxim of law is that any act unlawful at the beginning cannot become lawful over time by subsequent legislation. So the accused has the right to the benefit of the grand jury. They have the right to be present because that is a proceeding that's there for their benefit. It's not there for the benefit of the accuser, it's there for the benefit of the accused. What it does is it actually neutralizes much of the power of the state And it eliminates the power that the prosecuting attorney or the judge has to be able to proceed under arbitrary and capricious arrest and proceedings. It makes sure that there is a neutral and unbiased third party that will review the state's accusations to determine whether or not there is sufficient probable cause to assume the crime has been committed. So in the state of New York, we provided service on behalf of Donald J. Trump for the crimes of deprivation of rights under color of law, conspiracy to deprive rights, kidnapping, and other crimes ascertainable by the evidence on the record. When Mr. Trump was denied his right to be able to be present to confront the accusations against him because the prosecuting attorney conspired by and between the accuser to prevent him from being able to be present to confront those accusations, that was a crime. It's a conspiracy to obstruct justice. So we got to get this addressed. We got to get this issue addressed. And therefore, the judgment that's in place that we all believe exists and Trump himself believes exists is not valid. It has no validity. It has no authority because a criminal act resulted in that judgment. You cannot break the law in order to enforce the law. So the moment that a criminal act was committed by the state of New York in order to pursue that judgment, by denying the accused the right to be present to confront the accusations against him, by that one criminal act alone, it negates and voids all other acts committed by the state. That includes the investigation, includes the judgment, includes the trial, it includes any sort of sentencing. None of it is valid or lawful because it all derives from an unlawful act committed by the state of New York. State of New York, you have no authority to be able to enact your own alternative legislation and substitute it for the provisions and guarantees of the Constitution, and then deny the accused the rights and benefits that the United States Constitution provides. When you do such an act, by your unlawful acts, you negate everything that you produce. Your acts are unlawful and unconstitutional, and therefore, the judgment that's in place must be addressed. So there's no authority to be able to deprive any United States citizen rights that are guaranteed, secured by, enumerated in the Constitution of the United States, because when you do, what you result is going to be unlawful. The maximum of law is very simple, that any act unconstitutional at the beginning cannot become constitutional over time or by subsequent legislation. So as we move forward here, you need to understand that when you government enact a law that treats one part of society different than another, by your oppressive acts, you are resulting in nothing that's valid, nothing that is lawful, and every single thing that you produce is going to be void because you had no authority to be able to do it. You may not act outside of lawful authority that you've been granted and conveyed by the people of the United States, and as a result, we need to get this addressed. Now, I'm not political. I'm not with one party or another, but every single person here in America is entitled to fair and equal application laws. And fair and equal application laws derives from fair and equal governing. So when government chooses to take a side with one party or another, and then deprive that party rights that are guaranteed by the Constitution of the United States, by your acts, you negate any action at all. So if you want to have a lawful judgment that's in place, that's going to be valid and going to be upheld, then you must ensure that your acts are lawful, consistent with the procedures and processes established, codified in the Constitution of the United States. If you act unconstitutional, then what you produce must be unconstitutional. So today, we have a judgment that's in place against the former president who was denied the right to be able to be present to confront the accusations against him, a right that's guaranteed to him by the Constitution of the United States, by Clause 1 of Amendment 5, which states no person shall be held to answer for a capital or otherwise infamous crime unless on presentment or indictment of a grand jury. Now, you may believe that you secured a grand jury indictment. You may believe that. But when that act is done in silence, when it's denying the accused the right to be present for the full and equal benefit of that law, then you have committed a crime, conspiracy to obstruct justice. And so by that crime alone, that criminal act negates any action after that point. You may not deny individuals the right to be present to confront the accusations against them. You may not operate in secrecy, because that is the proceeding that's for the benefit of the accused, not the accuser. So here in New York, or here in Washington, D.C., we've now wrapped up this tour. We've now provided service on 32 state attorney generals, as well as 32 state Supreme Courts. And in doing so, we have given the opportunity for these states to respond. We've given them a chance, fair chance to be able to respond and to act in a lawful manner. And not one of them has stepped up to do the right thing and to obey the law. And as a result, we can now show the criminality of every single executive officer, of every single judicial officer within 32 states. Add to that the state of Washington, which was the primary respondent in our litigation. Now we have 2/3 of the states. It has been shown that not one single officer within those states will act in a lawful and constitutional manner to protect the people of the United States against crimes from being committed by them. So when our government chooses to breach the obligation that they have, the obligations that they have, that's codified in the Constitution of the United States, that is the relationship and the rules that have been established, the contract that's in place by and between the people and their government. And we told you, government, to govern us in accordance with these rules, these proceedings, these steps. And when you fail to follow those steps, we don't care why you failed. The fact that you failed is enough to negate any act that's contained within the contract. We do not have an obligation to obey you when you choose to breach the obligation that we've established for you. The Constitution establishes your obligations. You must fulfill those obligations. When you fail to do so, then what you produce, any action, is going to be void, unconstitutional, and unlawful. People have the right to be able to be governed fair and equally by our government. And when you breach your obligation of fair and equal government and you apply the laws unequally, then what you produce is nothing at all. So today, the judgment that's in place against Mr. Trump has no validity, has no lawful authority. It's fully void without force or effect on the parties involved in the dispute because the state, New York, chose to act outside of its lawful authority, breach the constitutional obligations that have been established, and as a result of that crime, nothing that it produces is valid. So I'm asking right now that the team get in touch with me, because we can avoid and address this issue, and we can determine a path forward consistent with the parameters of the law that we've established. And we can do this because of the breach of statutory obligation, constitutional obligation that the state of New York did. So I can be reached by cell at 771-215-6455 or 843-834-8964. Either one of those numbers you can reach me. I'd be reached by email, tanawah@weshallbefree2023.com. And I ask you guys to go ahead and get in touch with me. Get in touch with me as soon as possible so we can negate and void and address this situation. So we can move forward as a nation, figuring out how we're going to do that within the parameters established by the Constitution of the United States. Because today, we can show that 33 states are refusing to enforce the body of laws governing this nation, and that is an act of treason. That's an act of sedition. Sedition is defined as the speaking or writing of words such as law established in order to cause disaffection of the Constitution to procure its alteration in other than lawful manner. There's one way to change the Constitution that can be found within Article 5, Special Amending Procedure. And any act outside of those established requirements, that particular procedure, would be an act of sedition done by traitors to the nation. So we need to get this addressed. And so I thank you guys so much for giving me the opportunity to be able to travel this country, to meet all of you, spend time with your family, get to know you, and the injustices that you guys have experienced. And we're now at the tail end here. There's one group of men left to make a decision as to the outcome of the injustice that we experience here in America. We cannot continue to head down this path of enslavement of our brothers and sisters in institutions that we call sweatshops and China prisons here in America. It's not a just system. And so we've got one step left. It's right across the street here. Supreme Court, you guys are the last step to bring honor to this nation, because we've now shown that there's 33 states that have refused to enforce the body laws governing this nation. And so you're the last step. If we don't find honor within your institution, there is no honor. And by your lack of action, you will have destroyed your entire institution. Because if the lower courts, if the judges out here at the state, if the lower courts have more power than you do, then you are not what you say you are. You don't have the power that you say that you have. If you can't assert your supremacy now and act in an honorable manner to honor the laws of the United States, then by your lack of action, you will have destroyed your institution and you will have removed all the power that you believe that you have. So today, Supreme Court, you need to step up. You need to discharge the duties of your office. You need to fulfill the obligations and promises you made to the people of the United States. You need to enforce the laws of the United States against those that are breaking them, that work for you and your institution. Thank you guys so much. God bless. I appreciate everything that you guys have done, the blessings you've given me to be able to get across this country, serve these 33 states. We shall be free, Turb. We're done. We're done. Thank you so much. God bless.